well, we'll have to bear with us here. A little apologies for the extra box in the show. Hopefully we don't have the best part behind it. Thanks for your patience. We'll try to let Microsoft know when we get back home to Seattle to do something about PowerPoint. Anyway, we're excited to be here. Thank you to the host city of Dubai and the council for hosting this. Based on Peter's comments this morning, I'm very glad we're going to showcase two projects in urban environments rather than suburban environments. He didn't pose well for suburbia. Two of us up here today. My name is Jim Rothwell. I am a principal with Callison, and I lead our design and delivery systems integration process within the firm. Matthias Olt, who will speak specifically to the two projects we'll talk about, is our director of sustainable design, and he leads our strategies team within the office that deals with sustainability on all of our projects. Okay, we'll zip along here. I'm going to jump into the agenda. Anyway, the previous presenters talked about Echo City and about a commercial high-rise for an end-user client. Our show is slightly different. Both our towers are speculative in nature. They've got to be built for the market to accept it within price points, et cetera. So our drivers are slightly different on the economic side, but certainly the same on the sustainability side. And similar to some of Ken Yang's conversations this morning, each design embraces concepts for natural ventilation, vertical diversity, greening of the skyscraper, though I think as you'll see in our examples, it's more internal than external, and cultural adaptations. If you remember one thing as you leave here today, it is possible to balance the cultural vernacular and the indigenous nature of architecture into modern high-rise construction. These are some of the drivers in the world today. The markets that Callison itself works in are all the countries in orange, and there's a lot of similarities within those markets. We've heard a lot of statistics today in all the presentations. Here's one more for you. According to the United Nations Population Fund, by the end of this year, 2008, half the world population will live in cities. And by 2030, the developing world will be home to 80% of the world's urban population. Some more scary statistics. Anyway, to help us manage and understand our sustainable design approach, we've created what we call the Matrix, and different than the Hollywood version of the Matrix, ours is a tool to help us understand sustainability all through our office. There's 5 key drivers for us: energy, water, waste, materials, and then of course the tools that we use it. If we dive into one specifically, the energy, that quickly brings us into a myriad of opportunities for specific design applications to projects. Now, I will not bore you with the details of this, but if you drill into any one of these, you get into specific conditions. We have references on our website that go direct to best practices publications, ongoing research within the office, and other projects that are being done in the world. So it becomes a fabulous tool for us and our clients to learn what the best sustainable applications are for the individual projects. I'll let Matthias get going here right away onto the projects.
South Korea is the 4th largest economy in Asia. It is it belongs to the world's most technically and scientifically developed countries. Strong economic growth, past projected energy demands pose great challenges to the well-being of the nation. Well-being, but also economic stability. The imperative is to focus on local, culture-specific solutions that mitigate the dependency on natural resources. Traditional Korean lifestyles and dwellings have evolved over many centuries, allowing societies to adapt to seasonal and climatic changes. Cheap fossil fuel as a universal source of energy supply has replaced traditional methods which stem from a reaction to the constraints of the natural environment. Architecture and urban design have a mandate to help us find solutions against those problems. What are the cultural values that are truly Korean? Let's take a look. Airflow-guided heating and cooling systems in Korea are part of the culture and are part of the architecture. Maru floors, similar to a veranda, guides air naturally under the floor over a shaded surface, veranda-type surface, to the interior of the residence. This is important. Air was guided naturally through the building. Airflow, the Ondol system is a traditional Korean underfloor heating system. Heat is generated at a furnace outside the building, then the heat is used for cooking inside, then the heat is passed laterally to exterior chimney flutes. In this process, heat is being transferred to a clay-tiled floor and radiated back into the residence. The importance here, heat was stored and radiated back over time. Interstitial buffer spaces between dining and kitchen rooms are a very Asian, but specifically a very Korean story. They are used as thermal buffers traditionally they were used as places to store food and to dry clothes. And today they are considered a lease amenity. They are considered a bonus space, and in their function they act as climate buffers. Similarly, our building design incorporates window gardens that act as buffers to pre-temper outside air to interior temperature requirements. Let's take a look at our tower design. At 79 stories and 294 meters tall, ANYANG Tower is comprised of 230 residential units and 66,000 square meters of retail and hotel amenities. Sky gardens at every 7th floor clearly distinguish this tower as a breathing element, communicating environmental connection, performance, and health. This was important in the design brief. The site is located just 30 miles south of Seoul. It sits on top and is connected to a metro station underneath. And part of our scope is the Eco Park that you can see in front of the base, the retail base here. This Eco Park is partially owned by the city of ANYANG. And we provide the landscape services and including the incorporation of a hypermarket that you can see here featured. The residential tower is naturally ventilated. So what that means is for us in a high-rise building to capture air strategically at air terminals. And you can see from the diagrams at the bottom here, the hottest month in ANYANG are from June through September. It's those months that we as architects are worried about with respect to cooling. So we orient in the upper right diagram, we orient our tower to capture prevailing wind directions, which are from June to August from the southwest, as shown in the diagram, and from August and September from the north and the east directions. This was relevant to the design in the following. The diagram on the left shows you a partial section of this tower progression. What you can see is a strategic air intake at every 7th floor. Those are the locations for the sky gardens. Two forces apply. For one, you have a loof and a lee wind condition outside of the building. Second, you have thermodynamic uplift within the riser. Those two control the air speeds within the negatively pressurized shafts and allow now, if you look at the right-hand diagram, the moment that I open the exterior on the residences, you see a planned view with 4 residences penciled in here. The moment I open this envelope, I achieve cross-ventilation by air that migrates from the outside to those red spots, to those negative pressurized shafts. The purpose of this, again, is to cross-ventilate in very close relation to the vernacular that we looked at just previously, the Ondol and the Maru floor systems. You can see the sky garden, the air intakes here on the bottom image. The louvers, those are the points of air intake, and those are directly connected to the vertical shafts. Diagrammatically or schematically shown here are three topologies for various building orientations. On east and west facades, we have a two-layer wall. This two-layer wall is a floor-to-floor glazed ceiling and allows wind gusts to be mitigated due to the very performance spec that this type of construction brings. It also allows control of solar, control of temperature, noise, and condensation. The center diagram shows you the winter gardens. Important here is that those winter gardens, while in spring and autumn, those winter gardens pre-temper outside cooler air to warmer inside air temperature requirements. This is a non-heated winter garden space. In the summertime, those act as heat shields to prevent heat buildup in the interior of the apartment. The tower also consists of, importantly here to mention, opaque surfaces, so it's not an all-glass building. There are few connections to North Korea that are an issue. There are other privacy concerns next to energy household balance reviews that led us to look at opacity surfaces. Due to the hot and humid climate, the building will require mechanical cooling next to the passive cooling, which is provided through the natural ventilation. The diagram on the graph on the left-hand side shows you the case with windows closed. You can see the peaks in red. Those peaks indicate the spike temperatures. And the diagram on the right-hand side shows you a more even stratification that occurs when you open windows. The very red tall peak on the right-hand side diagram is representing the winter garden heat shield case. Or remember when I showed you the diagram about the winter garden where the doors are closed and the winter garden's purpose is to prevent heat from entering the spaces? That's what that representation is. The tower has a retail podium. That retail podium, in the interest of making this feel like a green building, it was important to us to look at the public used spaces such as the retail lobby. We have a 5-story retail lobby that is naturally ventilated, taking air in at low and exhausting at high. We have a 2-layer wall, integrated light shelves to prevent heat buildup and solar heat gain inside in the summer sun altitudes and to deflect daylight deep into the retail spaces using the winter sun. This concludes our project review in South Korea. Let's take a look at Vietnam. Vietnam is a nation with the fastest economic growth rate among countries in Southeast Asia. The drivers for sustainability are different in Vietnam. They have to do with basic life quality issues such as the elimination of brownouts or such as access to clean, fresh water, potable water. They're very real needs. Going forward, incentive programs are needed to emphasize on renewable energies, on clean water supply, and on clean air. Let's take a look at the culture. Traditional Vietnamese lifestyles have evolved over many centuries. Conflicts, colonialization, occupations, and wars have left tears in the society. However, they have also created a very adaptable and flexible people. The cultural mending has been eased by legislation that led to strong economic growth in agriculture, manufacturing, construction, housing, and in our case, foreign investment. The embrace of principles that support sustainable growth will need to follow. What are the cultural values that are truly Vietnamese? Let's take a look. The Áo Dài is a beautiful, traditional Vietnamese dress. It is characterized by simple, bold lines that separate an outer from an inner layer. The presence of the rivers in people's lives is of particular importance here in Vietnam, as Hong Ha River that bisects Hanoi is a symbol for the mending of North and South Vietnam. Markets as very typical for Southeast Asia in general, play a pivotal role in their relevance to provide the social fabric, to support the social fabric. And view accesses to nature, water, is often framed and stands in direct dialogue with architecture. This is our tower design, centrally located west of the main train station, a city block away from the light rail station. And although the tower is only a third of the Burj, after completion in 2010, 2011, this tower will be one of the tallest buildings in Vietnam. In an effort to attract international business to the country's growing economy, this high-rise emphasizes sustainable design solutions. The tower is a reminder that indigenous products and cultural achievements can evolve and emerge as a new form. The tower also, as a sculptural architectural form, it changes from what you can see here on the right-hand side, a rectilinear floor plan, to a bow tie floor plan at the tower's top. It will allow the tower, the surfaces, to shimmer in the light at any given day in various reflectivities. It will make the tower move and create drama. At the same time, it will create a very stark, elegant, beautiful object, if you wish, that has direct correlation to the Vietnamese vernacular. A typical residential floor plan shows you that 8 units are separated in 2 at 4 and separated by the sky garden. The sky garden is a through space. It punches through from front to back, and it is the entire height of the tower. The sky gardens are 4 stories for the offices and 6 stories for the residential. And you can see here that due to the geometry and the configuration of sky gardens with respect to the residential units, we achieve a perpendicular exterior wall layout for each of the 8 residences so that cross ventilation is assured. You see the office tower plan. Central to the tower design, they create a place for socializing, free of columns service corps, symbolizing civic openness and transparency. In the context of Vietnam's war-torn history, this central spine symbolizes the healing and mending and unification of a modern-day Vietnam. The mitigation of downdrafts on the tower building is of concern, and our response is a very clean, simple, elegant solution that complements the overall shape and form and expression of the tower. Not easy to slip this one here in eloquently. The building has no connection to the sewer system, to the sewer infrastructure. As a result of this, all wastewater is being collected in the basement and is being processed with a biomembrane reactor. What that entails is that water is being captured in a tank, sludge is being collected periodically, shipped off-site to pellet processing for use as fertilizers. The remaining water, the clean water, is a Class A effluent, which will serve as gray water use within the tower building. The traditional Vietnamese market follows the Southeast Asian market that I referred to earlier. The archetypes of that market are depicted here on the left-hand side image, with high cathedral ceilings to afford for cross-ventilation, to afford for odors to rise up, heat to rise up, daylight to infiltrate. And it's those principles that were taken over and applied in the images depicted here, the retail atrium and the main entrance lobby. In summary, this is what I want you to take away. In my experience, indigenous climate solutions improves architectural performance of modern construction twofold. It reduces the energy demand, it connects and relates to the local people.
So 3 takeaways we'd like you to leave with today that are really critical. 1, sustainable design is here to stay. We've seen it in all these presentations. You're seeing it around the world. It's not just a fad. It really is driven by business and environmental concerns. Secondly, invest in the business case. Sustainability has to make sense, and it can make sense if you apply it correctly. And third, it's critical to understand the place. Peter Rees talked about it, Ken Yen talked about it, understanding the place, the culture, the vernacular of the society that is there. Blend that with sustainability and the business case, and you can have great projects. Thanks for your patience today.